everybody. Welcome to the Peace Tent and the presentation from the Ohio Rights Group on cannabis activism. Just out of a show of hands, how many Ohio Rights Group members do we have here today? Who's all right? Very good. And who's supportive of medical marijuana in the state of Ohio? All right, there we go. You guys are not alone. You know, obviously, with recent polling indicating that north of 80% of the citizens of the state of Ohio want this to happen. It's a matter of will. It's a matter of effort. It's a matter of everybody coming together, and that's what we've found here. With our movement and our effort. I have to say, this is my third ComFest. My very first ComFest is when I met Mary Jane here. I came down to show some support, and first thing they did is throw me up on stage with a microphone as baptism by fire, and it was an interesting experience. But to meet some dedicated folks who are really trying to make something happen, I tell you what, I was an absolute greenhorn. I had no idea what was involved in making something like this a reality in the state of Ohio. And the last 2 years have been one heck of an education. We've been pushing really hard to make something happen and make it real here in the state of Ohio, and we've come a long, long way. We did. One of our main goals was try to get our Ohio Cannabis Rights Amendment on the ballot here in the state of Ohio. This year, we came a long way. We got over 100,000 signatures, and you got to realize those 100,000 signatures were all volunteer. That was not a paid signature gathering effort. We did not have a hired firm. Nobody in the state of Ohio has ever put an amendment on the ballot without hiring a paid signature gathering firm, and that takes several $millions. So what we were able to do strictly with just sheer will and determination and organization, I got to say I'm extremely, extremely proud of what we've been able to accomplish. And some folks of late, obviously are disappointed, none more than myself. But what I have to say is, we've only just begun, people. We are in this thing for the long haul. We're going to make it happen. I wish you guys could hear where we are at right now, the conversations that we've been having, the people that we've been meeting. We're really now starting to get the attention of people that are really going to step up and make this thing happen here in Ohio. I keep telling people this, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Ohio will be a medical state in a matter of months, not a matter of years. This is coming. This is coming. We have a multi-pronged approach that we've established. We're hitting everything from local initiatives to statewide petitioning to lobbying in the state house. This is happening. For years and years, the folks in the State House never wanted to give medical marijuana the time of day. Well, guess what? That's changed. We are now having conversations with folks in leadership in the State House, and I can't get into all the details of who we're talking to and all that, but just suffice it to say that they are definitely interested. There are people in the top leadership, both parties, that now have skin in the game. Now they understand what medical marijuana really means. They understand when they have a loved one. That always seems to change people's perspectives. When you're talking about the other and someone else is not involved, when you finally have skin in the game, when you finally have somebody involved in your family that is hurting, that is sick, that may be dying, and then all of a sudden you're looking for any possible solution. You start looking for the facts and what the facts are and what it means to have that opportunity for your family members. Then it really changes the perspective. And that we have had a sea change now in the State House, and I'm feeling very confident that if we keep doing what we're doing, we cannot stop, we cannot give up, we can't throw up our hands. 2014 was a disappointment, but we are still winning. We're still moving the ball forward. We're still advancing towards victory. This is not over. This is just getting started. We're now at that point now where we've gone from an all-volunteer army, and we've been doing it all by just sheer will of people who are really passionate about this. We're starting to involve folks who can make a difference, the professionals, the people who do this for a living, the philanthropists who have a lot of money, who can make things happen in a meaningful way. They're all starting to pay attention. and we're having some really meaningful conversations. I'm very hopeful that in the weeks to come here, pretty soon, we're going to be able to make some substantive announcements about some coalitions that we've been able to put together and some things that might be happening, everything from the local level to the State House. And it's all because of you guys. It's all because of the hard work that you've done, all the hard work that you put in, all the conversations that you've had, all the petitions that you guys have pushed around, all the signatures you gathered. You know, you've changed minds. You know, you look at that polling, and I know in my heart, when you see that Quinnipiac poll that said 87% of Ohioans support therapeutic cannabis, I know that that big jump has everything to do with what you guys did out in the street. All those conversations you had, all those Facebook posts, all those communications you had with all your friends and family, that made a big difference. When you start speaking passionately and showing people the truth, you know, the truth is undeniable. That's the one thing that I've learned in this thing. You can take somebody who's the most strident opponent. I went into a very conservative church here in Columbus, and we did a presentation. And there was a retired police officer that was in there, and he came into that presentation dead set against what we were doing. He came out not only supportive, he signed a petition, he asked how he could help. That's what happens when you show people the facts, when you talk to them in real terms, real family members, people who are affected directly. The women on both sides of me are affected very directly, and Angelica and everybody here is affected directly by this law, or they're being hurt by this law. People who want cannabis recreationally can get it, but people who need it as a medicine are the people that are being hurt by prohibition. People see that as a flaw, as a failed policy, as something that has to change. We're starting to, wake the folks up at the State House. They're starting to see that now. They realize that this is a very good, safe option. They want to be able to implement it in a way that it's not going to be letting the cat out of the bag and going, pell-mell in the wrong direction. There's some very conservative folks out there who don't want to see this thing becoming a free-for-all. I understand that. But we have to make sure that we're getting medicine to the people that need it. So we have to work as partners with the folks in the State House. We have to work as partners with people in the local communities, from your commissioners, your county commissioners, to your mayors, and folks who can actually make a difference. So we have to keep pushing together, guys. We have to keep building this thing. The Ohio Rights Group came from nothing. 2 years ago, we were but a handful of activists with a unified mission, and now we are statewide. We have thousands and thousands of volunteers, over 100,000 signatures on our petitions. We've been on every media outlet all over the state of Ohio because this issue is relevant, it's pertinent, it affects people's lives every day. It's an economic issue, it's a compassion issue, it's a healthcare issue. There's so many different things that are being affected by this thing, and if we stay together and stay unified and keep recruiting and keep having these conversations, we're going to win eventually. And it's going to be very soon. I can feel it in my bones. I know there's some things that are happening that I can't get into they're going to be making some news here pretty quickly. So just stay focused, stay determined, keep building your armies, keep building your groups. I'm here to answer any questions you guys might have. Leanne is directly connected to the operations, on the ground operations here in the state of Ohio with the Ohio Rights Group. Mary Jane Borden now is heading the Ohio Rights Group Educational Fund. I'm going to let them speak here a little bit, and then we can talk about what we need to do to move this thing forward. So I'm going to give it to Mary Jane, who is actually the founder of everything that we've ever done here. Like I said, the first time I met her was the first ComFest 2 years ago, and one of my biggest thrills about being involved in the Ohio Rights Group is all the amazing new friends that I have, like Michael and Angelica and Bill and everybody who's come out, and Claudia. It's just amazing how many people I look at now that I count amongst my closest friends, because there's some really good people in this group. People with a lot of heart, a lot of determination, good humor, that give of themselves for the benefit of others. And those are the people that I cherish most in my life, and I'm so blessed to have all these amazing people involved in my life. So with that, I'm going to give it over to Mary Jane Borden, who got this whole party started, and I'll let her tell you what's going on with the Ohio Rights Group Education Fund. Thank you.
First, I'd like to extend my personal thank you to John Pardee for believing in us, believing in me, believing that we could change the state of Ohio and then bring everything to where it is right now. I'm so blessed, as John said, to have a whole new group of people that I could call my friends. And I'd like to say my dearest, sincerest thanks to John for having the foresight and vision to have confidence really in us that we could get this job done. And so I go back then, I'm going to go back 2 years, and I sit there and I looked at the kind of the lay of the land in terms of where medical marijuana was in the state of Ohio, because there really wasn't much going on. And there was a need to fulfill. There was a need to fulfill, and the need at that particular time was for some type of a mechanism that could bring people together, that could get people, build these bridges, build these friendships, build. We have, I think, there's 88 counties in Ohio, and just about all of them now are headed by a county captain. That means that we have 88 people in the state of Ohio who are out there working the grassroots for the benefit of the higher rights group. I mean, to me, and the volunteers that spill from each of these, if each of these county captains has 5 or 10, 20, 40 some volunteers in some counties, it's just exponential. And the growth of this group has been just a whirlwind and astounding. But I felt that there was a need. The need that I fulfilled at the time was to spearhead the formation of the org and the composition of the Ohio Cannabis Rights Amendment. And so in terms of the evolution, what I see now, I like to go where the need is. Okay, that's kind of why I see my mission in life. Where's the critical need? So we have, a great group. We have, any number of initiatives that John just spoke about. The one thing I think that had, and I've been at this for let's say 15 years now in terms of working in fundraising and drug policy, particularly mostly on the national level, but also a little bit on the local level. But the fundamental number one need has been money, without question. And whether it was the national groups that I work with, I've worked with anywhere from the biggest national names I've worked with, and you name a group, I call them friends. And it's still, no matter how well networks are, it still came down to all the funding. At that time, what my experience was, came down to 3 rich, really, really rich people. It was George Soros, Peter Lewis, and then there's the other guy. I don't think I remember the other guy's name, but they were basically the kind of people who were giving like $1 million a year to various different groups. Okay, but it came down to 3 people. And we lost. Sadly, we lost Peter last year. So that took one of the big funders out of the equation. And so, in terms of what I'm looking at now, where the higher rights group stands, we've done. I like to tell people in my messaging, everything we've done on human power. And it's thanks to human beings that have done this. It's human power that has been our engine. It's not been the big money, it's human beings. It's human beings like you guys who really want to be involved in this and really want to play your part in changing the world. And so I think now, as I look back, this kind of occurred to me a couple of months ago, thankfully some other people were wise enough to kind of push me in this direction. But the need now is to find Ohio money. And that means my passion now has become cannabis. I think my point is important enough that I don't want to compete with that, okay? So I'm sorry about that, if I can't. I think the number one need now is cannabis-based philanthropy in the state of Ohio. I think that now the need is to find the people within draw a line around the state of Ohio and find your George Soros. As we had a Peter Lewis, we lost him, sadly. If Peter were still here, maybe things would be different. But, find those people within the scope of the state of Ohio that are the Peter Lewises of the world, that something that could take Peter's place and are willing to put their money into an important cause, and put their money, if you can't advocate with your time, if you can't advocate by collecting signatures, you can also advocate by giving your money to we're forming this now to a 501c3 organization. This is a charitable designation by the IRS. And we are going to be rolling this out in terms of trying to find the donors and the philanthropists who will fund this various programs that we could do as a charitable organization, okay? And that's called their Higher Rights Group Education Fund, because under the IRS classifications, education is a very important component for which they will not only give you a tax exemption, but it also enables the donor to get a tax deduction. And so in terms of education, there's still a whole lot of education we could do. There's still people out there who don't believe cannabis is medicine. Can you believe that? Yeah, really. Yeah. See, how many of us, do we know? I know cannabis is medicine. I know the difference that it has made in my life. And I'm not the reason, that's not the reason that I advocate for this, because the people that have come to me and told me their problems in life and the difference that cannabis has made, those are my engine. Those are truly my engine. So I want to form an effort whereby we can educate people who get these messages out. There are people who, believe it or not, who are still being arrested and still doing it. There was a person who's one of our county captains who had to actually go to jail, to prison. And this is, to me, an injustice. So we need to have a defense fund. We need to have some funds available to people that will defend them. This is just some ideas I'm throwing out for what we could do with philanthropy in the state of Ohio. There's education seminars. I want to see a convention. This time next year, I'd like to see a convention come to Columbus, Ohio, just like they're holding in Colorado, just like they're doing in California. We want it here in Columbus. We want the vendors. We want to be just like everybody else. That's my mission. That's my central mission now, is to find the people who will fund that and roll out those programs that are educational in scope, that can get the word out, and we're going to change the minds that are not already changed. And once we do that, then all of our dreams will come true, because we already have the 87% on our side. We need the money where their mouth is, but when we get there, get the whole picture settled, this will never happen again. People will never go to jail again. There will be defense, there will be support, there will be education, people will know about our medicine, they'll embrace our medicine. That's my mission.
She's spot on that, and I would just like to add just a little caveat to dovetail into what she said. The Ohio Rights Group and what we were able to do, by having a statewide organization, we would be on the ballot right now. We would have qualified for the ballot had we been able to pull in the resources. That was the one key piece that we had some folks who were able to step up locally who did make some significant donations. But this is a very expensive operation. Just for an example, we have quotes from signature gathering firms that require $2 million in order to do the necessary field work and processing signatures in order to qualify for the ballot. And that's significant money. We did raise some money, but obviously we didn't come anywhere close to that. With Mary Jane's work now, hopefully with the education fund and some of the folks that we've been starting to have conversations with, we're hoping that's going to change. And our mission has always been, as soon as possible. We want to make this a reality in the state of Ohio ASAP. And so we're not going to be sitting there waiting for, like a 2016. If we can get the resources we need and organization in place, we're going to try to qualify for the ballot again next year. So, but with that, I'm going to turn this over to Leanne Barbie, who's the executive assistant to Lissa Satori, who's running the day-to-day operations of the Ohio Rights Group. They're the ones with the finger on the pulse who work directly with all the folks in the field. And I'm going to let her explain what they've been doing and how things have changed over these months and what we plan to do in the months to come. Well, Leanne.
So I wanted to start by giving you guys a little background on my story. 2 years ago, I was a completely different person than I am now. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, Crohn's disease, got a number of spinal issues. I also have depression and anxiety and bipolar disorder. So being able to come out and talk in public is a pretty big feat for me. I was on over 20 pills a day. I was sleeping 20 hours a day. I have 2 kids and a husband, and they watched me deteriorate. It was pretty sad. And then in December of 2012, I had to switch doctors. My doctor had moved, so when I went to the new doctor, she refused to prescribe me any of my narcotics any longer. And to get through the withdrawals of that, one of my friends suggested that I try to use cannabis. And the withdrawals lasted for a really long time. I was on 90 milligrams of methadone a day, and I was able to get through that without having to go to any hard drugs or try to find anything off the street because of cannabis. I no longer sleep 20 hours a day. I sleep about the average 70 hours a night. I can get out and do things like this. I can talk to people. I would have never been able to do anything like this. So it's a pretty big deal that cannabis has changed my life. Not only did I go off the narcotics, but once I stopped taking those and I realized I was feeling great, I was able to get through my pain. It was treating my Crohn's symptoms. I just tried to go off of my other medications, anxiety and depression, and within 4 months, I was able to get off of all the rest of my medications. I've lost 55 pounds, and it's, I get goosebumps talking about it because it's not every day that you admit to the world that you use cannabis when it's illegal. But I think it's important for people to know that it is a medicine. It's a real medicine. It should be the first medicine that we choose. It shouldn't be a last resort to get you through withdrawals. You shouldn't ever even have to go through withdrawals, beyond those narcotics. So telling my story is important for me. That's why I like being out on the ground, being able to make a difference. And everybody can make a difference, even if you don't have a story. If you know that it's a real medicine, then you need to go out and preach it. So 1 year ago tomorrow, I made the decision to join the Ohio Rights Group. I came to my very first ComFest just to sign the petition, and Alyssa Satori got a hold of me, and it's pretty much history from there. I've been very actively involved. So this is another big thing. I haven't been able to work in 7 years, so to be out and just do anything is sometimes it brings me to tears. So we have been all over the state of Ohio petitioning. We've, like John has said, we've got over 100,000 signatures, and that's been all volunteer work. We do have captains in almost every single one of our counties. Some of our counties have multiple captains. And, sorry, I lost my train of thought. So we do need more volunteers. Obviously, donations is a big thing if we can, be able to get a signature gathering firm. But in the meantime, we're going to keep pushing with volunteers. So the more people that can come out and help, the better. I will be at one of the tents with the pot leaves. If you guys have any questions about how to get involved or how to help out, just let me know. It's an exciting time, and we're making history. We're gonna change Ohio. We're changing the laws, and I'm excited to be part of it. I can't wait to be able to tell my grandkids someday, you can use this medicine legally because of what my friends in Ohio have done. And I'm excited to be part of it.
Thank you, Leanne. That was obviously very moving. And her story has touched so many people. And I have to say, the last 2 years that I've been involved in this, I meet so many people like this. Your heart is breaking when you hear the horror stories that they've been through, either imprisonment or loss of health, loss of jobs, loss of custody of their children. The pain and suffering is unbelievable in some cases. And to know that there's an opportunity out there to make these people whole and healthy again, but for some arcane law, we can't give that to them, is the reason I'm passionate about this and why we need to make this thing happen in the state of Ohio. Like Leanne said, we have to keep building. It's kind of interesting, I always tell people nowadays, I look back on it, it's kind of like a funny thing happened on the way to the ballot. We were trying to get this thing to get on the ballot here in 2014. We didn't achieve that goal, but what we achieved? We solidified a movement. We gave it a name, we gave it a face, we gave it a place for everybody to come together to make something happen. Anybody now who wants to get involved and make something happen in Ohio, they're coming to the Ohio Rights Group. The politicians, the reporters and newspaper articles are being written are coming to the Ohio Rights Group because we have a unified message. You know, we're all about the medicine. We're all about the, you know, the cannabis plant, not only the medicinal side, but also the industrial hemp side, you know, for the entire Ohio economy. And we've created this vortex where everything's starting to come together. We're starting to coalesce. So my message to everybody today is, you know, we learned a lot in this last year. We came together. We put together an amazing machine. But for the lack of a couple of well-heeled people, we would be on the ballot this year. We're going to be a legal state here really quick. I mean, one way or the other, it's either through legislation or we're going to keep pushing our ballot initiative until we're successful. So please don't get disheartened. Don't give up. Stay unified. Keep fighting. You gotta know in your bones that we're winning this thing. We're winning it on multiple levels. You know, we're winning it on manpower. We're winning the argument. We're winning the message. We're learning as we go. We're becoming a stronger, tighter, more organized organization as we continue to go, and it's only going to get better from there. So please, everybody, stay with us. We're going to get this thing done in the state of Ohio. So with that, I wanted to see if anybody had any questions about what we've done so far and where we're headed. Yes, ma'am.
So are you guys, I mean, I assume that you're pretty educated on the benefits of CBD, cannabidol. Okay, so cannabidol has been really, really gaining support in, I guess, 7 states so far in the country have legalized cannabidol only in their, to help treat the use of childhood epilepsy. So, and 4 of those states are below the Mason-Dixon line passed by a Republican governor. So what are you guys doing to include CBD in the education outreach and the lobbying to do the same things? Because that's something that's going to get passed by cases because it's the grandmas and the babies.
Yeah, that's a very good question. For those who maybe didn't hear, she's asking about CBD, you know, cannabidiol, which is one of the main therapeutic compounds in the cannabis plant, also found in the hemp plant. People don't necessarily associate hemp with medicine, but hemp is a medicinal plant, and cannabis is a medicinal plant. You know, the main differences are the different cannabinoids that are within that plant. And they're starting to do a lot of research. They're really finding cannabidiol is an amazing medicine for a lot of different things, including folks with epilepsy and Dravet syndrome. What they are finding, however, is that when you try to isolate one particular cannabinoid, it kind of loses its effect to a certain degree. What researchers are finding is what they call the entourage effect. When you have a certain blend of cannabinoids in the medicine, it's how Mother Nature intended us to receive it, and it's how it tends to work the best. We obviously want to make sure that, especially if we're giving medicine to children, that it's got a very low THC content, at least the activated THC content, I should say, because we don't want the stupefying effects, affecting their motor function and their brain development. However, you can get THCA, which is THC acid. It doesn't have psychoactive effect because it hasn't been heated. The decarboxylation of the medicine, when you heat it up, is when you transform THC acid into THC, that's where the psychoactive effect comes from. A lot of people don't realize you can juice the cannabis plant and receive the medicine in very healthy form, and by having juiced cannabis, you don't get stupefied from it, and you don't fail a urine test by using that medicine. There's so many different medicines. You ask an older American today what medical marijuana means to them, they immediately say, well, smoking a joint. And our big part of what MJ is going to be working on with the Ed Fund is to educating people on exactly how the medicine is delivered, many different forms and ways that don't involve intoxication, and all the different cannabinoids that they're learning about. Even every day we're learning about new research that's coming out on finding a different cannabinoid is being used to treat certain diseases. And that's all coming. We're right on the cusp of this thing. This thing is just getting started as far as the medicine is concerned. It's gonna break wide open, especially if we can deschedule cannabis and make it so our researchers in the United States can start using this and start studying it more effectively. But I'm sure MJ probably wants to add on to because she's more of the medicine expert than I am, and I'll let her kind of fill in a little bit more on that.
I don't see how I could. He sounds pretty convincing to me. I'll say. Kudos to this guy. What's great about John is the guy that I met a little over 2 years ago. Didn't know what we're talking about right now. He recites it now like he's an expert, and that's the kind of guy he is. If he doesn't know something, he's going to have a passion to find out exactly what the facts are. And I don't know how I could follow that up, John. Thank you.
That's a good question, and we're learning. And that's the other thing too about trying to get industrial hemp here legal in Ohio. And you guys need to keep your eyes out on the headlines, because I'm feeling that's going to be coming here pretty quick. And if we can get industrial hemp legal in the state of Ohio, that means we can have Ohio farmers growing Ohio hemp that could be produced in Ohio and could be rendered into food, fuel, fiber, and medicine, like the medicine she talked about. So this is very important. There's absolutely no controversy in this stuff. Hemp should never have been prohibited back in the day, because it had absolutely nothing to do with people getting high. It was an economic power play by competing industries that made it prohibited back in the day anyway. So this is a no-brainer, and the folks in the State House are on the cusp of making this thing happen. One of the big things that everyone here can do, and all your friends can do, is always have a voice in the State House. Go through the trouble like my buddy Michael over here does. He goes to the trouble and is always talking to his representatives. Tell them how important it is to pass an industrial hemp bill in the State House. Tell your legislators how important medical marijuana is to you and your family. The more you talk to them, it becomes undeniable. They realize that something's going to happen. They are going to get something done here, folks. And I tell you what, you need to make noise, because if you don't make noise, what is going to come out of the State House is going to be watered down, kind of fairly wimpy. It's going to be very narrowly focused. And you need to know that the bigger your voice, the more active you guys are, the more people are contacting the State House. Not just, we want to do it respectfully and with love, but you got to let them know how important this is, and don't let them do some half measure, because if they do a half measure, we're not satisfied with it, we're going to keep pushing. I would rather have them do the whole enchilada, because guess what? If they do the whole enchilada, we're going to have medical marijuana in here in Ohio a lot sooner than we would through ballot initiative. So we want everyone to understand how important this multi-pronged approach is. We need everyone to start really getting vocal with the folks at the State House. Write letters to your representatives, hold meetings. If they're in town halls in your area, go visit the town halls. Tell them exactly how important this is to you. Get your friends and everybody involved, because we got to start pushing this thing not only from the citizen initiative side, but also from the legislative side. It has to be an undeniable force for change, and it's going to happen. It's going to be meaningful. So, does anybody else have any comments or questions you want to? No, there's not anything going to be on the ballot here in the state of Ohio this year. But there is something that you guys can do this year. Know that there's a lot of folks running for office this year. Everything from the governor all the way down to mayor's races. It's important that you have these conversations with these people, because going into 2015, we want to make sure we're working with city councils and county commissioners and governors and lieutenant governors and all these people that share our values on this. So it's your job to ask them the question, hey, where do you stand on therapeutic cannabis and industrial hemp? And if you look at any particular race and you can identify somebody who's supportive and somebody who needs education, well then let's try to educate that person. But if they're going to be a stick in the mud, a dinosaur, then it's time to send them packing. All right? We need to make sure, we need to start drawing clear distinctions. Let these people know that we are a voting bloc. We are coming out, we're going to vote, and we're going to be asking the questions. What's your view on therapeutic cannabis? Are you supportive, yes or no? If no, me and my friends are going to make sure everybody in this district knows that you're against what we're trying to do, and we're going to be supporting your opponent who's supportive. If you draw that clear distinction, some people are going to lose their jobs, and that's going to be a shot across the bow, the ones who survive. And guess what? They're going to want to play ball a lot better than they would. You have to be a political force. Look at all the other political forces that are out there, like the NRA and some other forces. They make a lot of noise. They affect a lot of races. We need to do this. We need to target those folks who are against us and make sure that they're either brought into the fold, or they're given an early retirement. And so we got to get active in this in 2014. But sorry to say, no, we're not going to have a ballot initiative in 2014, but we're still going to be active in this election season. That's for sure. Michael.
we all need to be familiar with our local representatives and our county representatives and our state representatives, so as they start setting these regulations and restrictions and county rules, that we're not ending up with a bunch of patients who are losing access to medicine because they have to do some sort of Oklahoma travel style thing in order to gain access to the same medicine as other people have. We don't want people having to travel 4 counties in order to gain access to medicine. A lot of people who need it are already on a financial strain. That's one of the biggest strains of medicine, is how much it costs. We don't want people having to drive and spend 25, 30, $40 worth of gas a week just to have to go and get medicine. So we need to have a better connection at every level. I mentioned it yesterday, probably 20 minutes of the time I spent speaking yesterday. I talked about how we've got to start making this a smaller level issue too, because we don't want to have to like reinvent the wheel as soon as we get it passed, and then have to start going and explaining to people why we don't want them. We don't want the people in Union County to have to travel to Marion County to get it. We don't want the people on the east side of Columbus to have to travel to Springfield to get it, and things like that. We need to be on every level all the time. It's as important to make sure that once the regulatory structure starts going in, it comes in on our side and not this overly restricted, incapable of getting it unless you travel. New Mexico has, if you live within 25 miles of a dispensary, you can't have any medicine at your house. We have to look at these rules that they're putting in place across the country and make sure we guard ourselves against them before our law goes into effect.
That's a very good point, Michael. Thank you. And like just to underscore his point, all politics is local, and the more we start having those conversations, you may think just talking to a mayor or a city council person about cannabis might be a waste of time. It's not. You need to have those conversations. It's amazing how many people are walking around with misperceptions of not only about the medicine but about our community. You ask somebody about cannabis activism, and they use all the worst stereotypes. They don't realize we're cancer survivors. We're PTSD survivors. We're parents of kids with epilepsy and Dravet's. They have to understand what our constituency is all about, and then we have to tell them what our medicine is all about, how it is safe, how it's non-lethal, how it is effective, how it's a better substitute for the more dangerous prescription drugs that are out there. You give them that information, you give them power, then they can stand up to those on their same body and give them ammunition to fight for you. So those conversations are vitally important, and so never give up on anybody, no matter what office they hold, and let's try to make something happen on a grassroots level. There's also something in Ohio that's called home rule, and that can be a double-edged sword. Home rule, we can actually carve out certain rights in local communities. And make it so cannabis can be a lot more freely available. But on the same token, you can also have some city councils like they do in Medina, where they've actually strengthened the laws against cannabis. They did use the home rule to be able to do that as well. So we have to be mindful of what's going on a local level and fight. Let's try to overturn some of these more restrictive communities and get those shot down. Our friends up in Toledo are doing a job right now. They're trying to put a bill together to take away the fines and jail time for cannabis possession in Toledo. 0 jail time, 0 fines, and that's something that they're pushing for in Toledo. The High Rights Group is very supportive on their petition drive. We had a bunch of our volunteers go up there and join Northwest Ohio NORML in their efforts on that. So it's just like everything else we do. We stick together, we work together. We're gonna affect change, and we support anybody who's in this community with us. Any group is a welcome partner to the Ohio Rights Group for sure. Anybody else have any thoughts, comments?
I kind of look at a little bit different framework here, just to extend it to a little bit different direction. We need to reach local communities, just as Michael said. Absolutely, we need to be in the community, and we need to be talking about this. And one great place, I think and I want to move the conversation this direction, which is why I grabbed for the microphone. And that is, I want to move the conversation to your local civic organizations. I want to move it to your Rotary clubs. I want to move it to your Kiwanis clubs. And I could name all the other clubs that are out there that have speakers come in every month or every so often to talk about important issues of our time. And I would like to see every single county, every single town, even we were talking to Bill over here about the town where I'm from. You know, what can you do to get me on stage, get me in front of your local Rotary Club talking about this issue? Because, you know, we can talk, and I love ComFest. You know, I've been in ComFest for well more than a decade now, so, you know, I'm bonded to ComFest, and ComFest is my friends. But I will say this, and with all due respect to my dearest friends, we need to move beyond the choir, okay? Sorry to say it, we need to move beyond the choir, and we need to be in those local communities, and we need to be the people starting the conversation. So, you know, if I'll just put this out there. If you know of a Rotary Club or a civic organization anywhere in the state of Ohio, call me. I will be there.
That's a good point. Yes. Just know the Ohio Rotary Group does have a speakers bureau. You know, Michael, myself, MJ. There's some others that will be more than happy to go into a Lions Club, to a VFW, to Rotaries, or whatever. And be able to have those talks, because I tell you what, they're amazingly effective. And we've been in retirement communities, we've been to VFWs and stuff, and what you see coming in, there's a handful of folks that are skeptical, and when they get done hearing the truth and the facts, and they see exactly who you represent, they're supportive. That's the target audience we want to hit. We want to hit the soccer moms. We want to hit the civically active people that are walking around with a misperception. We got to. You know, it was almost 80 years now that this lie is being told about our plant. And just in these last couple of years, people are starting to understand the truth. We need to keep pushing that forward. The more people we can convince, this thing is going to be over.
John?
Yes?
The one I feel is the most important is county Republican parties. It's physically the people who are the most active in our opposition. So every time we walk into a county Republican party where we have 20 people who are against us, we leave 15 are still against us with 5 or 4. That's 5 people who are part of our opposition, who are now part of our friends. I mean, you're literally talking to the people who are actively fighting against us, the most conservative people in our society, really. So there's no bad, and they're civically involved. So you want people to be able to get a hold of their representative. You want to deal with trying to flip the map here in Ohio a little bit. There's nobody better than the people who are physically involved with working with our opposition right now, because that's who sets up district battles. That's who sets up regional battles. That's who sets up county battles. It's the Republican parties. It should be our goal within the next 12 months to do 88 county party meetings and have one of us go and speak to them for 10 minutes. Because like I said, even if it's not everybody, you're not going to flip everyone in that room. But if we flip a small portion of that, it'll have a big change, because those are the people who are actively fighting against us right now. It directly correlates with what we need to have things change, especially at the state house level, because that's who's fighting against us. You know, if you look at who usually sponsors our bill, the cannabis bills in the state of Ohio, who co-sponsors them, it's the Democrats. So you have to look at who your opposition is and try to flip your opposition. It's like, kind of like you said, it's great to come to ComFest. This is a great place for us to collect signatures and do fundraising, because we know people here are for us. But if we want to go and educate people, it doesn't do a whole lot of. These are yes votes. I mean, every person here is a yes vote. I mean, I don't think we're really going to find a lot of people at ComFest who are going to be like, no medicinal cannabis. Like that, those people aren't here. Other than maybe the 6 guys out there that are telling us Jesus is going to kill us all. Or being drug users. Those people, but those are the people who are at a Republican county meeting. And if we convince one of those people, then are on our side. And now we've flipped we haven't converted a maybe, we've converted a no. And that's a bigger effect. Every time we can convert a no, I mean, I personally think it has more positive effect to convert a no to a maybe than it does a maybe to a yes. Because a room full of yeses will make a maybe a yes. It takes a lot more convincing to turn that no into a maybe. So
Michael brings up a good point. When you're talking, to that community, when you're really trying to push that, know your audience. The things that are important to a conservative Republican are finances and religion. And guess what? We win on both those topics as well. I mean, this is a huge economic engine that's going to reduce our tax burden, reduce the number of people in prisons. It's going to be bringing in tax revenue and jobs. But also, you ask them, if you have a compassionate natural medicine that was actually in the Bible, what would Jesus do? Would he give them, opiates, or would they be people that become hooked on heroin, or would he give them a natural plant? So those arguments can be won on both those fronts as well. So I encourage you to go into the Lion's Den and start having these conversations. You will be respected for having the courage, and just like Michael said, you will walk out with some people who will shake your hand and say, you know what, you spoke the truth, and you spoke with passion. I respect that. And those conversations start changing a lot of minds, and that's how we're going to win this. Anybody else have any thoughts or questions?
I think we have to make a point. We have to say there's a booth over there
Ah.
and a booth over there. OhioRightsGroup.org.
Yeah, please, like I said, it's all about coming together, so we do need support. HighRightsGroup.org is our website. We're also on Facebook, High Rights Group. We need all kinds of support. If anybody's got a rich uncle who can really help out, that's really what it boils down to. We have this thing won if we can get the resources. Just know the leadership of the High Rights Group is working every day, and we're starting to identify people who are very supportive. We're having these conversations. We're hoping to really start bringing in some meaningful financial support and some meaningful structural help from the national drug policy groups. 2 years ago, these national groups didn't know who we were. Now, they're giving us a second look. I've had conversations with a lot of them who've basically said, you know what, you guys look like you've kind of got your act together, and let's talk. So we're making headway. I'm impatient. I'm always pushing to make things happen. I wanted to get this thing on the ballot in 2013. Didn't happen. That was part of my initial education. I thought for sure we're going to be on the ballot for 2014. To the point where I made a bet with my friend Michael over here that I'd shave my head if I did get on the ballot in 2014. I would feel. But this is going to happen, and we got to know that we've put together an amazing army, and it's going to get stronger if everyone continues to believe. If you guys continue to believe, if you think this is important enough for you, for your friends, for your family, let's get together and get it done. So, like I said, talk to the folks at the legislature, talk to people who can make a difference, who can support this thing in a meaningful way. We're going to keep doing the work that we're doing. We're starting to get the attention of the folks that really need to start getting attention of. The point I was trying to make earlier is we've gotten in 2 years where a lot of other states have taken 5 to 7 years to get. We are really it's a blitzkrieg going on right now. I didn't realize that, myself. I didn't realize what it takes to make something happen on a state level like this. And I'm so very, very proud of all the folks in the High Rights Group and what they've accomplished in a very short amount of time. And I tell you what, this time next year, I think we're going to be it's going to be more of a celebration than it is going to be a need to continue to push. But this is never going to be done. Even when, like Michael said, once we get some laws passed, it's always going to be a work in progress. We always have to keep fighting for our rights on every level, and that's I'm run out of words. So.
I have 3 words. United we win.
There we go. Woo. Thank you, everybody.